Cyber warfare has been defined as actions by a nation-state to penetrate another nation's computers or networks for the purposes of causing damage or disruption, but other definitions also include non-state actors, such as terrorist groups, companies, political or ideological extremist groups, hacktivists, and transnational criminal organizations. Some governments have made it an integral part of their overall military strategy, with some having invested heavily in cyber warfare capability. Types of threat. Cyber attacks, where damage or disruption is caused, are the main concern. Cyber espionage, which can provide the information needed to launch a successful attack. Espionage. Traditional espionage is not an act of war, nor is cyber espionage, and both are generally assumed to be ongoing between major powers. Despite this assumption, some incidents can cause serious tensions between nations, and are often described as attacks. For example, massive spying by the US on many countries, revealed by Edward Snowden. After the NSA's spying on Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel was revealed, the Chancellor compared the NSA with the Stasi. NSA recording nearly every cell phone conversation in the Bahamas without the Bahamian government's permission, and similar programmesh in Kenya, the Philippines, Mexico and Afghanistan. The Titan Rain probes of American defense contractors' computer systems since 2003. The Office of Personnel Management data breach in the U.S., widely attributed to China. Sabotage. Computers and satellites that coordinate other activities are vulnerable components of a system and could lead to the disruption of equipment. Compromise of military systems, such as C4ISTAR components that are responsible for orders and communications, could lead to their interception or malicious replacement. Power, water, fuel, communications, and transportation infrastructure all may be vulnerable to disruption. According to Clark, the civilian realm is also at risk, noting that the security breaches have already gone beyond stolen credit card numbers, and that potential targets can also include the electric power grid, trains, or the stock market. In mid-July 2010, security experts discovered a malicious software program called Stuxnet that had infiltrated factory computers and had spread to plants around the world. It is considered the first attack on critical, industrial infrastructure that sits at the foundation of modern economies, notes the New York Times. Denial of service attack in computing. A denial of service attack or distributed denial of service attack is an attempt to make a machine or network resource unavailable to its intended users. Perpetrators of DOS attacks typically target sites or services hosted on high-profile web servers such as banks, credit card payment gateways, and even root name servers. DOS attacks may not be limited to computer-based methods, as strategic physical attacks against infrastructure can be just as devastating. Electrical power grid. The federal government of the United States admits that the electric power grid is susceptible to cyber warfare. The United States Department of Homeland Security works with industry to identify vulnerabilities and to help industry enhance the security of control system networks. The federal government is also working to ensure that security is built in as the next generation of smart grid networks are developed. In April 2009, reports surfaced that China and Russia had infiltrated the U.S. electrical grid and left behind software programs that could be used to disrupt the system. According to current and former national security officials, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation has issued a public notice that warns that the electrical grid is not adequately protected from cyber attack. China denies intruding into the U.S. electrical grid. One countermeasure would be to disconnect the power grid from the internet and run the net with droop speed control only. Massive power outages caused by a cyber attack could disrupt the economy, distract from a simultaneous military attack, or create a national trauma. Howard Schmidt, former cybersecurity coordinator of the U.S., commented on those possibilities. It's possible that hackers have gotten into administrative computer systems of utility companies, but says those aren't linked to the equipment controlling the grid, at least not in developed countries. Schmidt has never heard that the grid itself has been hacked. Motivations. Military in the U.S. General Keith B. Alexander, first head of the recently formed U.S. Cybercom, told the Senate Armed Services Committee that computer network warfare is evolving so rapidly that there is a mismatch between our technical capabilities to conduct operations and the governing laws and policies. Cyber Command is the newest global combatant, and its sole mission is cyberspace, outside the traditional battlefields of land, sea, air and space. It will attempt to find and, when necessary, neutralize cyber attacks and to defend military computer networks. Alexander sketched out the broad battlefield envisioned for the Computer Warfare Command, listing the kind of targets that his new headquarters could be ordered to attack, including traditional battlefield prizes, command and control systems at military headquarters, air defense networks and weapons systems that require computers to operate. One cyber warfare scenario, Cyber Shockwave, which was wargamed on the cabinet level by former administration officials, raised issues ranging from the National Guard to the power grid to the limits of statutory authority. The distributed nature of Internet-based attacks means that it is difficult to determine motivation and attacking party, meaning that it is unclear when a specific act should be considered an act of war. Examples of cyber warfare driven by political motivations can be found worldwide. In 2008, Russia began a cyber attack on the Georgian government website, which was carried out along with Georgian military operations in South Ossetia. In 2008, Chinese nationalist hackers attacked CNN as it reported on Chinese repression on Tibet. Jobs in cyber warfare have become increasingly popular in the military. The United States Navy actively recruits for cyber warfare engineers. The U.S. Army has their Cyber Command where they actively recruit for cryptologic, network warfare specialists. Civil potential targets in Internet sabotage include all aspects of the Internet from the backbones of the web, to the Internet service providers, to the varying types of data communication mediums and network equipment. This would include web servers, enterprise information systems, client-server systems, communication links, network equipment, and the desktops and laptops in businesses and homes. Electrical grids and telecommunication systems are also deemed vulnerable, especially due to current trends in automation. Hacktivism. Politically motivated hacktivism involves the subversive use of computers and computer networks to promote an agenda, and can potentially extend to attacks, theft and virtual sabotage that could be seen as cyber warfare, or mistaken for it. Private sector computer hacking represents a modern threat in ongoing industrial espionage and as such is presumed to widely occur. It is typical that this type of crime is underreported. According to McAfee's George Kurtz, corporations around the world face millions of cyber attacks a day. Most of these attacks don't gain any media attention or lead to strong political statements by victims. This type of crime is usually financially motivated. Non-profit research. But not all examinations with the issue of cyber warfare are achieving profit or personal gain. There are still institutes and companies like the University of Cincinnati or the Kaspersky Security Lab which are trying to increase the sensibility of this topic by researching and publishing of new security threats.